Welcome to a new video on AlHuTV. Today we have for you from the company Dreame the L50s Pro Ultra. This is this beautiful device, a vacuum mopping robot, which is what we have here. But we also have a base station here, which comes with some cool features. We definitely want to take a look at those. Right up front, we have 30,000 pascals of suction power here, ideal for hard floors and carpets. So we can also mop. Here we can use 100-degree hot water to clean our mop. Lots of cool features, as I said, and we're going to take a closer look at them here in my video. Yes, I've already mentioned a few features, but let's gently get started here. Let's take a closer look at the robot itself. As we can see here, we have a so-called tool brush in use here. This ensures that we have a very good anti-tangle system here. The manufacturer even claims 0% tangling. I can confirm that here as well. We'll take a look at that in a moment. We have two mopping pads here. Here's an arm that extends out. And of course, the mopping pad at the back extends out as well. This is what the whole thing looks like. Quite simple. But let's get started in practice. So, as usual, I cleaned my kitchen here. As for the process, yes, it does what it's supposed to do. It first cleans the edges and then, of course, the interior of the room, just as you'd expect. So first the outline, then the rest. That's typical and it works wonderfully. Not just there, but also in the living room when you let it run completely. Here everything is normal, as you can see, a table in the way and so on. There were absolutely no problems here. Here too it navigates really well. And in the end I got exactly the result I was hoping for. But let's take a look at the individual features of the robot here. Yes, it all starts here with the suction power. 30,000. I've mentioned 30,000 pascal suction power here, and that's what it demonstrates here on hard floors, here on the tiles. It vacuums everything up here without any problems, just as you would expect. It's really not a big challenge to pick everything up from hard floors with this level of suction power. It truly doesn't leave anything behind here either. Even on the carpet here, where the crumbs naturally get a bit buried in the fibers, we still have no problems. Here too, the 30,000 pascal are more than enough to thoroughly clean the carpet. Again, this is exactly as you would expect. If you look at the robot from underneath, you can see the ultrasonic sensor here. Of course, this ensures that the robot can detect when it's on a carpet. This information is also stored in the map. It then intelligently increases the suction power so that it can clean the carpet thoroughly with the full 30,000 pascal. As I mentioned, I've already demonstrated this to you. Another really nice feature is the so-called tool brush that we have here. You can also place it in here. If you open it up, you can see it very clearly again. Looking at the tool brush a bit more closely, we have a brush here, we have the rubber blades here, and these rotate together in combination. And here as well, I basically put dog hair on the carpet, or spread it out. Of course, that's always really difficult, because the hairs dig into the carpet like barbs. Nevertheless, we were able to pick up the dog hair here, and even when picking up the dog hair, we don't have any hair wound around the underside here. The manufacturer states that it can handle hair up to 30 centimeters long, so also from women and men with longer hair, unlike me. It can handle up to 30 centimeters without the hair getting tangled. I can confirm that here as well. I had absolutely no problems with the dog hair here. They are picked up beautifully. Afterwards, of course, everything goes into the base station. The base station vacuums everything up here. Here we can take a look inside and see the vacuum bag. And that's where, in the end, our dirt and hair end up. On the outside here, since I already have it open, there's a cleaning solution. You can add it here. The whole thing is inserted here, basically. And then, when we wash, the mops are used for that. So, let's close the whole thing up. Let's continue right here. So, as I said, when it comes to vacuuming, it has proven itself. There's absolutely no problem. We also have the mopping pads here. Now, as I mentioned, the mop extends out here, the arm can extend from here. I can show you that it works wonderfully. That means when we mop here, the arm extends right up to the edge. And even in the corners, the brush arm extends accordingly. And here as well. When sweeping, we can reach right into the very last corner. Otherwise, as for my own mopping experience, yes, I dirtied the floor myself. As always in my videos, I use the slightly sticky cocoa powder here. That is always very demanding. Yes, for that you still need, even when washing with mops, a certain amount of pressure, as well as a high water supply to get things clean. And in that regard, it also performed positively. Here too, with the L50s Pro Ultra, we had no problems picking up the cocoa powder, and with 2 passes, everything was wiped clean perfectly, so that's really just as you'd expect. It can vacuum and it can mop. When mopping, it can also lift the mops at the back, of course, especially when it detects a carpet with the ultrasonic sensor, it lifts the mops at the back, up to 10.5 millimeters. And then it drives onto the carpet so that the mops don't get the carpet wet, and it does that as well. It demonstrated this wonderfully here. And when it's done, when it's finished mopping and needs to remove the cocoa powder here, and I want to show you that again very briefly. This hasn't been cleaned again, yes. This cocoa powder, it turns everything completely brown here. I'll show you a bit closer again, it gets this clean, yes. So I didn't wash it again, didn't clean it again in any way, this is just how clean they get. Why? Because here in the base station, of course, after the work is done, it returns here, and then all the mop pads are cleaned here at 100 degrees Celsius water temperature or up to 100 degrees, which also ensures that even the oil is dissolved. Even if, for example, in the kitchen, some oil from frying ends up on the floor and is picked up here, that too should be dissolved here at 100 degrees. And it really does work because they get absolutely spotless here. And I tried to capture the whole thing a bit with the thermal imaging camera. Of course, that's a bit tricky here, just to shine the light in there. Nevertheless, you can already see quite clearly at the maximum setting, maximum temperature, that a lot is happening here. As I said, this also confirms the manufacturer's specifications. Yes, and as mentioned, we have everything included here, because we can also go over steps here. So here, obstacles. This is the so-called easy lip system. That's because here we can go over steps up to 4 centimeters high, which I've also demonstrated here. You can see that very clearly with my obstacle as well. You can also mark on the map where this step is, so it can orient itself a bit, and then it works wonderfully and climbs right over the obstacle here. As I said, up to 4 centimeters if I give it a little help here. You can also see it here on the camera. It's very clear here. Let me show it to you like this. Then you can see this easy lip here. Here, if I move it a bit, it goes down with it, yes. When it turns, this cross here turns along with it, and that's what allows us to climb up to 4 centimeters here. So it's not like you might know where something extends out. And we just drive over it like this, but here it works with the whole system. Let's take a look at the camera here. As I said, we can see obstacle detection here, AI supported with 3D structure, and up here there's also a structured light. This ensures that even in poor ambient lighting, it can still work a bit with the fill light here. Yes, and you can see the whole thing here, also very nicely demonstrated in my practical example. It recognized the obstacles here without any problems, avoided them easily, drove around them, wiped around them, just as you would expect. So that works wonderfully as well. And I think that's also the basis for us being able to get everywhere and work our magic everywhere. Tip top, really. Dreame has delivered a great package again with the L50s Pro Ultra because it really does its job. Tip top. But there's something else I'd like to add. For some people, this is actually very important. I noticed it right away, so I want to show it to you. This is the fresh water tank. Of course, there's also a dirty water tank included here as well. I just want to quickly point out again, we have here 4.5 liters of fresh water. Dirty water, 4 liters, 4.5 liters. That's quite a lot. So you can really clean often without having to constantly refill the water. I just wanted to add that. Because for some people it's really important, and as I said, I noticed it too. Not such a small container, 4.5 liters, and that's really top notch. Otherwise, up here we also have a ladder system, which in combination with the camera, of course, ensures detection. So I think I've covered quite a bit here. So this really is a premium vacuum mop robot from Dreame once again, which has definitely impressed here with the extremely high suction power. Especially for pet owners, it's really optimal here. Here with the do brush system that we have here. And as I said, we can also mop with it. But as I mentioned, my main focus was clear here. A household with dogs, for example, is ideal, or a household with dogs, cats, and other pets. And as I said, when it comes to mopping, it also delivered excellent performance. And we can get these things really clean here with 100 degrees. The mop pads, those are also top-notch and not something you find everywhere. So I think we've achieved a really good overall package here. Let's take another quick look at the app together. I didn't focus too closely on it this time. It's already very well known after all. Nevertheless, I want to show you one or two things again. Here we can already see the map itself very nicely. Here we have the AI assistant. Here you can see the cleaning history. You can already see I've cleaned a few things here which I really like. So the carpet detection, I cleaned that as a zone here, which you can see in blue. We can see here that a shoe was detected. That's actually mine. I walked back and forth a bit with the camera there. And that's when the robot detected my foot. So that works as well. Here too, it shows that it has detected something. So we have a detection here and a probability of what it is, for example, if you want to see why it didn't clean there. Otherwise, you can create the map here just like you're used to. Here we have options to edit everything afterwards and to add furniture, thresholds, curtains, and so on. That's no problem at all. You're already familiar with that. This is what it looks like in the end. For example, here I created a barrier because I wanted to use this transition and show it to you. And now you can set everything here just the way you want. Of course, you can also create multiple maps here. That's not a problem either. Otherwise, we have various options here that you can set. For example, how should it handle carpets? Should it drive over them? Using the ultrasonic sensor, say, okay, that's a carpet. But if it detects one here, should it rather ignore it, avoid it, or just cross over it? These are little details that can be set here. And here you can also specify whether it should use the boost on carpets, and so on. So as you can see, there are still a few options or refinements you can pursue here. Otherwise, let's move on to floor cleaning. Here is collision avoidance. That's standard now. I've also activated the stain detection and the lab options here. Then with stain detection, it would clean a bit more thoroughly. And so on, depending on the situation. For example, if I have a tile that reflects a bit, it might, perhaps I should say, not deliver the desired result, but you can always try that out individually at home. Otherwise, you can go through the pet care options here. Yes, as you can see, there are a few more things you can check, like pet detection and so on. The voice assistant, I'll show it to you. It works, of course. I've tested it. Okay, Dreame? I'm here. Yes, just as you know it and as it works. The whole thing also works with Apple Watch and also with the Google Assistant, but also the Alexa Assistant, and so on. Everything familiar. It also works wonderfully in combination. As I said, nothing new, yes. But it works as you know it, and it's actually pretty good. Otherwise, as I said, you can set a few options here. Here you can choose whether you want to clean just a single room or only a certain zone. For the room, you can click on it. You can also do it beforehand. Vacuum, for example, or say vacuum thoroughly. You can specify what you would like to have done. You can set that here as well, including how much water and so on. For example, if you select the mop here, you can choose how much moisture you want to use, especially important if you have wooden floors. And of course, you can use the Clean Genius in the same way. Then it will clean accordingly, and it also clearly displays and describes exactly what it is doing. It will go over everything and so on and so forth. But you can also set all of this in a custom way, just like I did earlier. So the whole thing is very flexible. As I said, nothing new, very comprehensive, but the whole thing is self-explanatory, and you also have an assistant here. It always gives you a little tip as well, making everything really complete. The whole story, so I think I've shown you enough of the app now. As I said, it's well known and very well designed. I think I've included everything here. You can read more about it down below in the description if you want to check it out again. You can also read up on the individual features of the robber again. And as I said, if you want to know anything else, you are of course welcome to leave a comment here. I'd be happy about that. Otherwise, you can also leave a like and subscribe here. I'd be really happy about that too. And until next time on AlHuTV,